What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unscripted Access, episode number 117. You're here with your host, Nick McCandless. On this week's show, we have Anthony Ta.
Hello.
And John Macaluso.
What's up, guys?
We haven't had John on for a while now, so glad to have John back on Unscripted Access. So, for everyone that listened to last week, one of the main things we talked about pretty much overkill, and trust me, don't worry if you're not into PC gaming, we're not going to go on for an hour and a half, 2 hours like we did last week. But I do want to bring it up briefly because I said I would last week. My PC's built, so last podcast at this time, I pretty much had just ordered my parts. Thanks to Amazon's fast 2-day shipping, I got everything in on Friday. I put it together Friday night, and I'm up and running. Pretty sick. Once again, just to kind of go through the specs briefly. It's running an i7-5820K, which is Intel's latest 6-core. It's not their highest end 6-core, it's their baseline 6-core, but it's still their latest 6-core i7 processor. I've got a GTX 980 in there. Because I have the new Intel X99 chipset, I had to go DDR4, so I have DDR4 RAM. I have a 960 gigabyte SSD. So just to wrap, it's super freaking awesome. I've played a couple games on it. I've played Dying Light, which I've actually been streaming this week for you guys, and it looks so good, like so unbelievable on my machine. It's ridiculous. I'm running the game I'm using NVIDIA's DSR technology, so I'm pretty much running the game at 2K, and then it downsamples it to 1080 for my TV. Over 60 frames per second without an issue, like no hiccups or anything. And that's while streaming on Twitch as well. So really enjoying Dying Light. I have Evolve on PC. I haven't had a chance to play Evolve that much because really, to be honest with Evolve is a fun game, but that's more of a game that you want to play with people like your friends. And that's why hopefully, I know we have Bronson. He has a gaming laptop, so he may look into getting it. And then when John's actually having a PC built as well. So hopefully we can get the three of us. And then maybe Anthony wants to join in. Maybe we can get a few of us into Evolve on the PC. That'd be pretty sick. I played Evolve. Of course, the game looks absolutely gorgeous on my machine. Assassin's Creed Unity looks gorgeous. Like, everything just looks super, super good on my computer. The one lesson that and this doesn't affect most people because most people do not have capture cards in their computer, but the main issue I had, so I spent like 4 hours, because I used the same PC case, so I spent 4 hours taking everything out and building the PC. I could have done it in probably 2.5, 3 hours, but I really took my time, make sure everything was done right, and then I spent a lot of time on cable management for this machine. All of that to be done, it's now about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, to find out, great, it doesn't turn, well, it turns on, but no video is sent to the TV. So I'm like looking all this stuff up, trying all this stuff. I ended up calling Anthony the next day in the morning before I had my plans for Valentine's Day. So long story short, I was on the phone with Anthony like an hour and a half. We just could not figure this out. Like, we tried taking out the video card, tried taking out the RAM, all this stuff. Turns out, if you're building a PC and booting it for the first time, do not have a graphics card plugged in. You do want a graphics card plugged in. Don't have a capture card plugged in. Essentially, what was happening is the computer was confusing the capture card as the video card, and that's why no video was being sent to my TV, because capture cards, while mine uses a PCI Express 2, those only intake video. They don't put out. But the computer saw that, oh, a PCI Express 2, this must be the video. Once you get the computer set up and all the drivers and all that, then you can install it. So just a quick heads up for anyone, like I said, most people don't have capture cards in their PC, but if you do, and you're rebuilding your PC or building a new PC, do not have it in there when you first boot it. I learned that the hard way.
The thing that I personally feel about all this is that I don't think it's really the motherboard confusing the PCI Express as a video card, because PCI Express is like designed to replace PCI and AGP, which was like the old graphics port way back in the day. I think it's kind of more like the motherboard and the card doesn't know how to talk to each other, because I would buy new video cards today and then put it in my 10-year-old computer and I would get the exact same problem, just nothing. And it's a video card, it's low end and all stuff like that.
Well, but the
And
thing is, after I got my computer set up, I installed the driver for my capture card. My capture card works now.
okay, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so
I think I'm guessing it's probably a first boot. You only plug in essentials. That's it.
right.
On first boot, like capture cards, like freaking. I have a capture card from 2007. I tried putting it in my 2011 computer when I built it back in the day, and it just wouldn't work. Which is why
Weird.
external USB ones are so much better.
Right. Interesting. Cool. So yeah, that's my experience. I very much am enjoying it. The plan is to get a 4K television later this year and then buy another 980 so that I'm gaming in 4K, which would be pretty sweet. I tested Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 is one of my favorite video games of all time, so I have that on PC. Just because at the time it ran so much better on PC versus a console. I mean, obviously this is with the PS3 and 360, and they have Borderlands 2 coming out remastered for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but I probably won't get it just because of the fact. I mean, it's a good deal because you get Borderlands 2, the pre-sequel, all DLC for $60. Can't beat that. But now that I have this beast PC, I'm gonna be pretty much my plan is to play all multi-platform games on my PC. Because I have a way of being able to game on my PC using a PlayStation 4 controller wirelessly, or just natively you can plug your Xbox One controller in. So pretty much, like I said, my PC is pretty much a custom console. All I use it for is playing games. All my computing tasks I do on my MacBook. So yeah, very much been enjoying it. But with Borderlands 2, I ran Borderlands 2. I was like, let me see what my 980 can do with Borderlands 2. So yeah, it can run Borderlands 2 in 4K maxed settings. That's because that's an older game. The reason why I know that is because, once again, with NVIDIA's DSR functionality, I had it running 4K, downsampling down to 1080, and it was running it perfectly smooth with everything maxed out and everything. So, pretty crazy. So, but for future games, 980 definitely is not going to do it. I looked and it just, no way. 980 will not do it. So you think, oh my gosh, $550 graphics card. Well, yeah, but that's why PC gaming is so expensive. But it doesn't have to be. John is actually going into the PC realm as well. Anthony, let's go over what his build's going to include, because his budget was what, $800?
$800 with some outdated bits to it, unfortunately. Because
well, okay, what's his build consist of? Or what will it consist
so his
of?
build consists of this old i5 that I have sitting around. It's 4 years old. It's a Sandy Bridge. It's a Sandy Bridge i5 2400. Back in the day, it was pretty darn awesome. And I'm pairing this up to a B75 motherboard, and has a GeForce GTX 960.
Okay, so he'll still be running a good machine, though.
He'll be running a good machine.
Yeah, so his PC will still have more power than the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One by a considerable margin. Because I know I know as far as comparing it to NVIDIA, I think last time I looked, like the 660 is comparable to what the PlayStation 4 has. I had the 660 Ti, which was better than that, and the 660 Ti, I noticed on some games was outperforming my PlayStation 4. For example, Assassin's Creed Unity, it looked better on my console than PlayStation 4. Even though with that, my CPU was technically bottlenecking in that game, so it might have looked even better. So the 960, I think the 960 is like a 50% improvement over the 660 Ti, if I remember correctly. Does that sound right?
It's more like the 20 or 30, I think.
Oh, really?
Because
Maybe it's
the
50%
960
over
when
the
the 960 is actually a little underwhelming.
Yeah, they'll probably end up coming out with like a 960 Ti, like you said, once AMD comes out. Because AMD's going to be coming out with their 300 cards soon.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then NVIDIA's supposed to be releasing the 980 Ti like later this year or something like that. So we'll see. But yeah, John's machine is going to be pretty awesome as well. So, John, what are you looking forward to once you have your PC built?
Honestly, I'm really looking forward to finally doing some videos for TGA. I know Anthony's going to kind of tutor me through video reviews, which is the main reason why I wanted to get a PC. I don't want a PC for gaming, believe it or not. But I am greatly looking forward to finally playing Rome Total War 2. I love real-time strategy games, and probably some Civilizations. Looking forward to playing Evolve with you guys. I know Company of Heroes 2 is a game that I've been wanting to play for a long, long time. So mostly real-time strategy games and TGA stuff.
Cool. Yeah, so John, I know you say that you aren't planning to use it much for gaming. We'll see what happens. We'll have this discussion again in like a year because I was kind of the same way. So when I first, this is before this build. This was like this is like 3 years ago. I built my PC mainly for video editing because this is before I had the MacBook that I have. I built this thing for video editing and I used it for that. And I was like, man, I have this pretty powerful PC. Let me just buy a graphics card for it. And I was just, the moment you like see the difference with some of the games, you're just like, okay, I can't go back. Well, then the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out, and I was like, okay, this is good enough. I was like, I'm fine. I'll look into upgrading my PC. And the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are like 5-6 years old. That kind of didn't happen because, like I discussed last week, it all started with a Google search, and here I am a week later with this super expensive PC. But once you, like, seriously, like, Dying Light, like, you saw the stream. Like, the stream is heavily compressed. Like, the stream does not give it justice. But you can tell when you watch that stream that, okay, this is not running on consoles because it looks so good and runs so smooth. And it makes the biggest difference in the world. Like, John, I know you got Dying Light on the console. Have you played it on your console yet?
I actually have not even opened it.
Oh, you haven't opened it yet.
No.
So yeah, once you open it and you play it, you're gonna be like, "Oh, this looks good," but it looks nothing like what I saw on Twitch, you know. So it then kind of gets to the point where it's like, okay, I got this PC that can outperform. This is my logic. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll translate to you, but it does make sense. Is okay. So I got the PC. Now, okay, this game's coming out. It's the same price on PC or console, or maybe cheaper on the console. I mean, cheaper on the PC. So I pay the same price regardless. But if I buy it on PC, it's going to look better than my console. And then the next question people come with was, I don't like mouse and keyboard. Well, this is a solution to that. I'm not going to go into that. Maybe we can do. I'll be probably putting up an editorial because I'm actually planning on reviewing some of my PC parts because we're trying to branch out into this like PC gaming coverage stuff. So I'm gonna try reviewing some of my PC parts. So I'll put up an editorial about that. But there is a way where you can. Well, first of all, if you have an Xbox One controller or an Xbox 360 controller, you can just plug it into a USB on your desktop and be good to go. It plays, just plug it in, good to go, because it's created by Microsoft. But if you want to play with a PlayStation 4 controller, the DualShock 4, you can do that wirelessly. And it's very simple, like very simple. So when you guys saw me playing Dying Light, that was me playing on my PC with my DualShock 4 wirelessly. So essentially at that point, it's like having a video game console, but the games look a whole lot better. And I'm paying either the same price or less to play it on PC. The only time that I can see possibly going with the console version over PC is if, okay, like Destiny, for example, or let's say Evolve, everyone got Evolve on the console. Of course, then I'm probably going to get on the console. But if most of your friends, if playing with your friends isn't a big deal for that game, for me, or at least for my logic, I'm buying it on PC without a question, just because it will run and look so much better. So we'll see what happens. I mean, for real-time strategy games, forget about that on consoles. PC's definitely where you need to go for that. But yeah, so I think that pretty much wraps up the PC stuff. Really, really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Any other comments on my PC, John's PC gaming in general?
Yeah, for John's PC, yeah, we kind of use some outdated bits. I have like a Core i5 sitting around. Like, if we were to build John a fresh PC today using reasonably quality parts and all that, John would be stuck with like a Core i5 or a Pentium and a 750 Ti, which kind of brought up a good question of, okay, do we want to build this system for upgradability down the line, or do we want to build the most powerful system we can today? And I picked the route of, let's build him the most powerful system today. And yeah, Sandy Bridge is outdated, but I also have a Ivy Bridge i7 in my system that's really overkill. So and we have a 960, and those i5s are still good. Like the one I have, it's still pretty usable. And that's like, it's not like I don't think John's gonna get too insane about PC. And yeah, video editing needs a lot of power, but again, I have like an i7 in my system. Maybe 2 years down the line, I can give him my old i7. It'll give his system a huge boost.
Well, yeah, for the video editing that John will be doing, at least for any time soon, the i5 should be fine.
So
so
I mean, further down the line, if there's anything I want to do with a computer, I mean, you and Nick and Bronson are pretty knowledgeable. So I mean, I'll just do the same thing I'm doing now and just talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, but
we I do appreciate it, by the way.
We definitely gotta have you on again once you've had some time and you've played some games on your PC and see what you think. So I think you'll be. I mean, I know that's how I was. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna buy games on PC. Blah 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 blah. But it's just when you actually see the difference. And I mean, with you, you're not gonna see as much of a difference as me because obviously I put about 3 times as much money into my computer as you put into yours. But you still built a PC that is going to look better than PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So
I mean, it was like the other perk too is that PC can do more than just play games on it. Like for example, John, it's going to be your editing machine. It's going to be your typing machine. It's going to be your work machine too. So that's cool.
Well, yeah, to an extent. I mean, I actually have been using my iPad for like the last 5 years. That's the one thing I've been upgrading on. So. Like all my writing and stuff I do on that. My homework I do on that. I have a horrible laptop that it looks. I can't actually see it right now. It's probably under my bed or something. I bring that out every once in a while.
But yeah, so man, when Bronson and I, whenever we do that segment of bunch of TGA amateurs, a bunch of console gamers attempt to build a computer.
Well, here's the thing.
No. I'm not saying it's going to be hard, but it's just going to be pretty entertaining because the whole internet's just going to have a stroke about how old some of the stuff we have that's going in this thing. Because it's like, for the brain, we've got a 4-year-old i5. 4 years old.
He has the 960 in there, which...
Yeah, the 960 alarmingly is like the nicest thing in that whole system, believe it or not. I mean, freaking I was like, wait, John, you're editing, not playing games? Oh, crap, because I had a game-orientated build to it, because freaking the motherboard has a chipset that's based on some chipset that came out 2 years ago, the processor is 4 years old, the hard drive is like Western Digital Blue, it's not even the performance line, their mainstream line. Freaking copy of Windows 8.1 is a lot cheaper than it used to be. Full version of 8.1 is like $120, whereas when I bought Windows 7 retail a while back, it costed me $170 or $180. So Microsoft's coming down on price.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing, though. I think the build that he ended up with, I think that's going to be a good build for the money. I think for the money, that's going to be a good build. And the nice thing about PC is he can always upgrade down the line or whatever. Like he decides that, oh man, this PC gaming is freaking really awesome. I want to make these games look even better. He can be like, okay, at the time, let's say this is like a year down the road, maybe the 960 Ti is out, and the 960 Ti, let's say it's $250. Well, he can sell his 960 for maybe $150, get the Ti for $250, so he ends up only paying $100 to go from a 960 to a 960 Ti. So, I mean, that's the good thing is with like PC, like that's the reason why I had so many people are like, dude, like why are you going DDR4 and all this? Like the difference isn't that big. It's not going to be optimized for games in so long, blah, 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 blah. And so many people, and I'm like, I'm going to tell you why. The reason why I pretty much went balls out is because I don't want to have to rebuild my computer again in 3 years. I don't want to have to do that again. I have Intel's latest chipset, which means that 3 years from now, there will still be processors for the X99. So that means 3 years. Well, that's what I've been.
I don't know.
That's what I was reading from Intel. Intel says they plan on supporting X99 for at least 3 years. That's what Intel's saying.
Okay, yeah, it could be a while before Broadwell E comes out.
Yeah. Well, this is Broadwell E.
No, it's Haswell E.
Oh, it's Haswell.
Broadwell hasn't even had its full line come out yet. Only
Yeah,
like very
Haswell
specific
E.
mobile chips.
Yeah,
last time I
Haswell
checked.
E. Sorry. So at least, like I said, they said 3 years. Okay. So and now that's the other thing. So I got the baseline, and it's complete overkill. The top of the line Haswell E right now is like a $1,100 processor, and it's freaking 8 cores, and it's just freaking ridiculous. So in 3 years, they're gonna have maybe that 8 core as something that's reasonable, and then I can upgrade to that. So I'll get that 8 core, and that'll have me good for another 3 years. So this build, I don't have to. I'm looking at probably not having to completely rebuild it for another 6 years, because 3 years from now I can upgrade to the latest X99 processor then, and then that processor will last me 3 years. So that's 6 years right there. You don't think so, Anthony?
The way I see it is that whenever you commit to something that high end, it changes all the time, because high end just doesn't trickle. I mean, what's the word? The thing I've noticed about high end is that they change it a lot. Because Intel, they freaking change sockets all the freaking time with each like every other generation. Like freaking my system is only like what, Sandy Bridge is only 4 or 5 years old. Well, the problem is that they had a socket change again, so obviously Haswell can't work on Ivy Bridge. Ivy Bridge and Sandy Bridge work okay to each other. You know, they can be forwards compatible or backwards compatible, whatever. But Haswell motherboards can only do stuff with Broadwell until like Skylake comes out. When Skylake comes out, well, that's a new socket. So each set of motherboards only has its run for about 4 years, and that's it. Then they change sockets again. And in the case of AMD, they didn't change sockets, but well, that's AMD, and they've fallen really far back. Like AMD didn't change their sockets very much, and to be honest, I've heard some pretty crazy backwards compatible and forwards compatible stories depending on BIOS and motherboard and all that stuff. But Intel, they changed sockets. And, well, in case AMD, it kind of doesn't matter now because they're so uncompetitive that they've kind of fallen off the map as far as enthusiast products for their CPUs.
When I was doing my research, I was just like, AMD is so bad. Like, first of all, their top of the line processor uses like 240 watts. It's something freaking super ridiculous like that, and it's not even that good. It's pretty much in gaming, it's pretty much equivalent to a high-end i5 or a low-end i7. And I was like, I'm good. I mean, obviously it's a lot cheaper, but I mean, for my processor alone was $400 just for the processor. So
back in the day, AMD, yeah, they were starting to fall behind, but at least they were still competitive to Intel in some way.
Well, yeah, when I bought this was like 3 years ago, AMD wasn't really that hard behind, because when I bought the processor that I had in there, it was very comparable to what Intel was offering at the time, as far as pricing goes and everything.
Yeah, like Intel was always kind of like the value thing, and AMD 10 years ago scared the crap out of Intel pretty badly. But after the Phantom 2 series, after that series of CPUs that you have, they decided to do kind of a somewhat radical new type of PC architecture with their CPUs, and it didn't work out. And it was kind of slow and ran extremely hot, and because of that, that line kind of just fell flat on its face, and Intel just sped off ahead, and now AMD doesn't really have a chance to catch up, as far as I could tell, because Intel has so much R&D money that any competitive product AMD puts out, Intel's just going to say, okay, we'll just put more money to solve our CPU problem. See? We beat you again. Good luck. Bye.
But yeah, so I don't want to go on for much longer, but long story short, yeah, I went with X99 just because if I'd went with, what's the type before that? What's it?
It was the first number. So there's the letter, which kind of tells you how high end, what kind of category it is or something. The first number digit says the generation, and then the second digit kind of tells you kind of where on the hierarchy.
Right, so like what's the chipset of like the 4790? Like 4790 is pretty much what a lot of people are using for their builds right now.
You mean that's the quad core, right?
Yeah.
So they're either using a H97 or Z97.
Yeah, and so what I was reading is that going with the X99, Intel's going to be supporting X99 longer than they would be supporting those chipsets. So I wanted to go X99 so that, like I said, in 2-3 years, when I decide to maybe upgrade this thing, I won't have to completely rebuild this again. Also, yes, that brought on the fact that, I have to get DDR4 and all this stuff, but like I said, it just all came down to, I want to build a super high-end PC. I want this thing to be future-proof as it is, and other than the other 980, of course. I want it to be future-proof as it is, and then when it comes time to upgrade, I want to have plenty of options. I don't want to
here's the thing. Here's the thing is that not everybody's going to go down that upgrade path, and here's the reason why. Money. That's always like the thing that stops people. Like, for example, I could have gone overboard and gotten myself all these fancy new upgrades and kept my computer on top end, but I never did. My computer didn't really have many upgrades. Why? Because I didn't have money to sustain constant upgrading. It's like the only upgrades I put in this system is SSD and new CPU, and even then, that was a lot of money. Right there. So yeah, it's cool to, oh man, I want to get the next 960 Ti, or how about go up to 970, or the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. But doing that every year is very expensive. Very expensive. Because that's hundreds of dollars a year you're spending just to keep up with the latest. And that's freaking why my computer rocks like a freaking $150 lower mid-range cheapo card from 2011. So... and that's like towards the beginning of the decade, and now we're at halfway through the decade.
Right.
So, yeah, if you have a lot of money, yeah, you can definitely keep up with the upgrade path. But for a lot of people, man, I wouldn't be surprised if a vast majority of PC gamers out there actually rock on video cards that are at least 3 years old. Because that's what their budget told them. They just use their computers until it gets way too slow or it breaks. And then they consider another moderately priced computer. Believe it or not, according to NVIDIA, the most popular video cards out there is not the 80s or the 70s, it's the 60s. Like 960s, 660s. They're the most, because they hit that nice point. I'm just kind of a bit of an oddball and kind of a bit lower than that.
Yeah. I mean, let's put it this way, the 60s, if you're wanting to pretty much put a PC together, don't spend too much money, but still have something that's better than consoles, that's what the 60 is, okay?
That's what I gave John's computer.
Yeah, that's what a 60 will provide. 60 will provide your sub-$1,000 build. It will provide better visuals than the consoles. So that's why those are so popular. You go to the 970, the 970 is a big jump, and then the 980 is an even bigger jump.
Here's the thing, the 960 is $200. Okay, yeah, it's a pretty big pill to swallow, but okay. Next step up is $350, which is this colossal price gap, and I'm just like, man, they have to put something in the middle eventually, because that is a huge gap. So, but yeah, kind of a budget bill.
Yeah, so the thing I'm really looking forward to, like, don't get me wrong, I am these games look so good, like 1080p, and then even if I'm able to do it, I do DSR, and it looks really good. Here's what I'm looking forward to, though, and this is the whole reason why I put this thing together, is simply for freaking 4K gaming on this thing. Okay. Most games at this point come out in 4K, so I'm just looking forward to the day that, let me get a 4K TV and let me go ahead and buy another 980. And yes, that's going to be super freaking expensive. But at that point, I'll be fucking rocking 4K smoothly. I won't be doing 4K Max. If I do 4K Max, I was reading that I probably have to go to 3 980s, which that's just ridiculous. I don't know if I'll get. I don't know if I'll get that insane.
Let me pitch this idea out to you. So, 4K Grand Theft Auto 5, because it's going to come to PC soon.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. It's funny. So I was streaming Grand Theft Auto 5 some last week, and I was talking about, I beat the game on PS3. I'm a little over halfway on my PlayStation 4. I was like, I'm probably not going to get it on PC just because at that point, I'll probably already beat the game 2 times.
But you have to see the city on 4K.
Yeah, but then I'm like, wait a second. I have this high-end PC now, And I was amazed playing Grand Theft Auto on the PS4 because the remastered version of that game looks so much better. Like, so much better. And I'm just like, what is this going to look like on the freaking PC? You know? So now I'm like in this path where it's like, oh, God. Like, am I going to end up buying Grand Theft Auto for the third time? Oh, man. I don't know. But, no, the games I'm really looking forward to for PC, I'm really looking forward to The Witcher 3. I'm hoping Steam does on. I know it's like $20 right now, but I know Steam sometimes does sales on it for like $5. So if they do it for $5 before The Witcher 3 comes out, because I would want to try out The Witcher. Plus, that game's like crazy. Like my 980, which once again is a $550 graphics card, will not run The Witcher 3 in max 1080. They've come out and said that it will not max. It's that crazy as far as specs go. Like, if I wanted to run 1080 max, I would need two 980s in there, which that's just nuts. So pretty much, if you want a 4K The Witcher 3, good luck. You're talking about 4-way SLI, and that's you're just talking
Somebody
money.
will do it, and they will show it to YouTube, and the world will be floored.
Oh, I am sure.
I mean, it's just, again, like with Case of the Witcher 3, I don't know if they put out those kinds of requirements just because they'll suddenly that game goes from, hey, this could be an interesting Western RPG to try out, to this is a benchmark. And I kind of feel like that game should be known more than just be some fancy, shiny, glamorous benchmark.
Well, no, what I remember, okay, I think it does run at max. It just doesn't run 60 frames max. It might run like 30 max. So, but that I really want to do. I really want to run that at least 60. Because once you, the thing I've seen with these games is, man, once you go 60, it is really hard to go back. Like, oh my, it makes the biggest freaking difference in the world. And here's a question, Anthony, and maybe you know the answer to it. So, we've seen games on consoles that are 60 frames per second, and they look good, right? So, how come on PC, I'm running a game once again over 60 frames per second, and my TV can only take 60 frames in, so I know it's not displaying more than 60 frames per second, that's why I usually have, like, VSync on. How come the game still looks smoother? It looks noticeably smoother on the PC than the console, even though they're both... The console says the version's running at 60 frames per second.
Two things I could think of. One, your TV has some fancy feature on that somehow predicts frame. I don't know TV tech very well, but you know how in movies they can somehow turn a 30 frame per second movie into a quote 120 frame per second movie through some fancy tech?
Right.
There's that. That's one idea. The second thing that I could think of is, yeah, the console's running at 60 frames per second on average, but there's this thing called, I think it's called micro stuttering. So what happens is, yes, you're averaging 60 frames per second, but the amount of time to render each frame is uneven. So you get these little weird micro stutters. Instead of like having all 60 frames rendered in the exact same amount of time, it's like you're getting like weird jitters in the frame rate between those seconds. So you're still averaging 60, but it's kind of over the place. This is a problem that AMD cards had in the past that they fixed with the driver, I think now. But in the past,
yeah, and the consoles both have AMD in them. So.
Yeah, so one of the arguments as to why NVIDIA was better than AMD back in the day was that AMD cards, yes, they can run faster, but because of the micro stuttering, your image didn't look as smooth. It looked a little weird, even though your frame rate's good still. So
got it. Maybe that's
just some highly scientific measurement that just came about in the past few years.
Yeah, AMD may be struggling when it comes to CPUs, but man, they're making bank off these consoles because PlayStation 4 and Xbox One
I don't think they're making
both
that much
really
bank
well.
because I imagine the margins are really low because they needed to win that contract to stay relevant.
Well, yeah, but I'm sorry, you're not selling. I mean, think about it. Look how many PlayStation 4s. There's like 18 million sold, not shipped.
Yeah, but if you look at AMD's financials, they're not exactly on fire either. I mean, like, on fire in a good way. If anything, they freaking have, like, 17 different CEO changes, and freaking, yeah, they're selling so many PlayStation 4s, which should help AMD, but then you look at AMD's financials, and it's not like they're doing financially great, and their stock prices aren't shooting through the roof because, oh man, AMD's supplying chips to just about all the game console makers, Xbox One, PS4, and the graphics for the Wii U. Man, they should be doing great, but they're not doing as good as you think they should.
Yeah, and then you have NVIDIA's CEO, who's been the CEO forever, and he's rocking those expensive leather jackets whenever he's...
Freaking the dude could just
talking.
come out and announce stuff like Shield and Grid, and still the place makes a profit.
Yeah, they're coming out. They have a big event March 3rd. NVIDIA does, and they're talking about how it's something they've been working on for 5 years. I think NVIDIA's coming out with like their own, not necessarily console, but kind of their console. I think that's probably what it's going to be. Because NVIDIA comes out with like a $400 console per se, and it plays like Steam games or whatever, and has it look noticeably better.
No, I don't think so.
There's either that, or they'll come out with the Shield 2 running their new Tegra, which supposedly their new Tegra is freaking unbelievable.
Well,
They're using
Tegra
it
is
to like
fat,
power
but
cars and
here's
stuff.
the thing about Shield, though, is that you didn't have exclusive games for it. It runs on Android, so some people can see it as a really glorified Android device with a controller.
Right.
I mean, that was just one of the things about Shield, and freaking we were there at CES too, and the Shield supposedly won all the major awards at CES, and then when they put it out, nobody really...
The one thing I will
bought
say is
one.
really cool about the Shield is that if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, you can stream your PC games to your Shield, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but how many people actually stream their PS4 games to their Vitas?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just
Same
a cool
question.
little feature, but yeah, okay, so enough PC talk. Let's move along here.
Yes, that was 36 minutes of PC. We're sorry. Crap.
Okay, we're telling you guys, the raid will be happening again, and we'll keep all this stuff for the raid. Okay, so big topic this week, guys. So I've had the Order 1886 for, let's see, I got it, was it Friday? So I've had it for almost a week. We recorded this on Wednesday, so I'm technically talking about before embargo, but see, the catch is this does not release until Friday, which is after embargo. By the time this goes out and you guys are already hearing it, my review for the Order 1886 is live. I just finished reviewing it before we hopped on for this podcast, well, a little bit before. And so we're talking about the Order 1886. Obviously, no one else on the site's played it because the game's not out yet. I'm the only one that's played it. I've beat it. And I'm just going to kind of provide my brief overview, and then we'll kind of have a discussion between Anthony, John, and I about the game. I reviewed it. I gave it a 9 out of 10, okay? The game, I'll put it this way. When you first play the game, it is the graphics. Like this, it's one thing to see these videos that Sony releases, okay? It's another thing to play it and see it running and see how smooth the game is and how unbelievable it looks. It looks breathtaking. Hands down, without a question, no debating. There's no debating here. It is the best looking console game to ever come out. No questions asked. It is. Okay? Second of all, the transition between cutscenes into gameplay, how Ready at Dawn was promising, they nailed it, okay? There is not one stutter, one interrupt. And I played the entire game. There's not one stutter, not one interruption between the cutscenes and the gameplay. It is so smooth, you literally are wondering, okay, when can I control my character? Because the cutscenes are the gameplay. It looks the exact same. So the cutscene's going, and you're like, oh, this is a camera angle where it looks like they want me to play. And you're like, oh, okay, I can move now. It's that smooth. It's ridiculous. It's almost like this is a long movie and you control certain aspects of it. It is that good. Simply amazing. That also brings up the question. A lot of people were questioning Ready at Dawn's decision to make this game run in 21:9. And all these points I'm bringing up, I go more in depth in my review. I wrote a pretty in-depth review, so please be sure to check that out. Let me know what you think. But the game runs at 21:9, which means that, like many movies, you're going to have the black bars on top and bottom. The reason why they did that is because obviously they went for a big, huge cinematic feel, which they nailed, by the way. A big, huge cinematic feel with Order 1886. So you have these cutscenes that are displayed like a movie. Now, obviously, if the game now went to 16:9, you see those black bars kind of disappear. That little cut instantly, just from that minuscule, takes away from that seamless story. So yes, I was kind of iffy about it first, but when you actually start playing with it, you're like, I actually really like this because, like I said, it feels like you were controlling a movie by how good the game looks, how smooth everything is. That's another thing, like the graphics and then how smooth. It does not. I didn't have one frame rate hiccup, no hiccups at all during the entire game. And when you see the game, you're like, okay, there's got to be points where when things get intense, the frame rate's going to dip, and it didn't. There are times where there was a massive gun battle going on, all real time, explosions, things happening everywhere, and the frame rate did not dip. Absolutely incredible. So visually, the game is just it's amazing. Completely crushes every other game out right now. Like I said, I'm not talking about PC because PC obviously there's more expensive PCs and how the games are optimized. So I'm not talking about that. But as far as on consoles, it is the most visually impressive game, most technically impressive as well. Okay, technically and graphically are two different things because you could be graphically impressing, but maybe not technically. Well, the order is both. Okay, because just the scenery, the character models, the gun models, everything is just so on point that you can, like, when you play the game, it's not like, oh, you can see this box doesn't look as good, or they definitely cut out this part of the game. Like, no, like, you play the game and everything looks super, super good. Going back to that 21:9 thing, part of me makes me think, okay, another reason why they went 21:9 is because, to be honest, they probably cannot push those extra pixels making it look this good. A possibility, but once again, I actually appreciate the fact that they did that because that seamless flow is just something I have yet to see in any video game. It is so smooth. And this is what Ready or Done was saying, but you say something to actually execute on it and something this impressive, it's quite amazing. Okay, so that's the visuals. As far as the story is really, really good. Okay, it reminds me. It's different from The Last of Us, but as far as qualities, I'm willing to say that the story of the Order 1886 is almost on par with The Last of Us, which is a huge, huge compliment. Huge compliment. The story is really, really good. There's many twists and turns. The drama, and like I said, just the cinematics and how smooth everything goes just makes it play so much better. It makes the story come across so much better. It really feels like you're in control of everything that's happening. And it's really, really good, guys. I cannot express it enough. The story, I'll tell you guys this. At the end part of the game, I'm not going to spoil anything. We will have a spoiler cast for this game, hopefully in the next week or two, once everyone's had a chance to play it and beat it. By the end of the game, my heart was literally racing. Like, my heartbeat was literally speeding up. And I'm not going to say why, but the end of the game gets super intense. Like, super intense. And literally, my heart, I could feel it, boom, 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 boom. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it's very rare that I have a game make my heart rate speed up like that, okay? And the Order 1886 did that definitely at the end of the game. As far as gameplay goes, they nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. I played it at E3. And that's another thing. I played it at E3 and was impressed. And Anthony, I know you played it. Well, it looks a lot better than E3. Like, noticeably better. Which is, I know it's hard to believe. Yeah, like, I know it's hard to believe, but it looks a lot better. Like, a lot better. It's super scary how real this game actually looks. Like, you're gonna see the cutscene and be like, okay, yeah, this is a cutscene. But the thing, then you'll realize that everything you see in the cutscene is exactly how it looks when you're in control of it. Exactly the same. There's no disparity at all. It's like ridiculous. Like, the technology is super insane with this. It's crazy. As far as gameplay goes, they nailed it. When I played it at E3, I mentioned to one of the people there that was working on the game, I was like, I really liked it. My only complaint is it takes a million shots to bring them down. They fixed that. The hit detection is really good. So obviously if you hit them in the head, they're going to die because it's a headshot. Or if they have armor on, it's going to take more than that. And the hit detection, shooting guns is super rewarding. The sound is really, really good. Like, it's super rewarding to kill people in this game. They have something, how it feels, it just feels a lot different than other games. Like, a lot of people, you just shoot them, they drop dead. Those enemies that you kill, it's not like they just drop dead. Like, it depends what position they're in when you kill them, what they're doing. Like, there's times where and I didn't even mention this in my review, and I might add it in there, but there are times when you'll kill, let's say a guy is shooting at you, and you're shooting at him, but you kill him while he's shooting, well, there's a good chance that just because he just got shot, that his gun isn't going to stop firing because his finger's still on the trigger. So you'll see as he's going down, the gun's still shooting off. Like, just those little minor details like that make this game so impressive. So impressive. So yeah, the gameplay is really, really solid. The color system's really good. A lot of people are going to compare it to Gears of War. It is similar to Gears of War in some ways. I like it how it controls better, though, personally. At first, you're like, yeah, this kind of feels like Gears of War, but as you get more into it, you can tell it feels substantially different. Yeah, they're similar, but they're different. I mean, it's just like playing like Call of Duty and then maybe another first-person shooter. They're similar, but they control different, you know? So, yeah, they just nailed everything. The gameplay's super solid. Graphics are unbelievable. Story's really good. The only thing, and this is why I got a 9, okay? So if they would have put this in, because here's the thing, I've never given a game 10, and I don't think I'll ever will give a game 10, because a 10 to me means it's perfect, and I guarantee you I can find a problem with the game. But the big reason why this game kept this game from getting a perfect score is replayability is an issue, okay? The game, there was rumors coming out that you can beat the game in like 3 hours. Those were obviously debunked, and I can debunk that myself. It takes a lot longer than that. I think it took me like 10 hours to beat the game. Now, I will say this. It's not 10 hours of gameplay. Be prepared for something similar to Metal Gear, where there is a lot of cutscenes. But it's so good, and because it flows with the gameplay and flows right in, you don't mind it. It looks so good. You're just like, oh, man, I wish that cutscene would have gone on a little bit longer. But, and especially the beginning of the game. So I noticed, like, maybe the first 45 minutes of the game, I was like, okay, this game isn't going to have much gameplay, because of the first 45 minutes, I'd say maybe 10, 15 minutes of it is gameplay. But, well, maybe not that drastic. We'll say like the first 30 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of the first 30 minutes is actual gameplay. The other 20 minutes is, but that's just setting the game up. As you progress more to the game, you see substantially more gameplay. But yeah, overall, if you had a PlayStation 4, like I said, the replayability, that kind of frustrates me, but it doesn't ruin it for me, and I'll tell you why. I would have much rather them release the game that they did than for there to be an issue where, like God of War Ascension, where they try to put multiplayer in, and because of that, the single player suffers greatly. What I would like to see is hopefully the Order 1886 sells really well. Michael Pachter, which, I mean, he's just making analyst predictions. He said that he thinks the Order 1886 will sell 5 million copies. I think that's a bit ambitious. If it sells that, that's great. But you're talking about, at that point, 1 every 4 PS4 owners buying the game. I don't know about that. And then he said something like he thinks 8 to 10 million if they bundle it with the console. So if they bundle it with the console, I can definitely sell it like 5 million. But game by itself, 5 million, I don't know. That'd be great though. I'd love to see that, because here's what I hope happens. Okay, I'm not gonna say what happens at the end, but they can definitely make more of these. Maybe not in 1886, but they can definitely make more of these games. And I would like to see the game do really well, and then Ready at Dawn have the support to build a team to focus on online, because the way the game controls, it's so good that you wish it had a multiplayer. You wish it had multiplayer, because it'd be so awesome. And then a lot of people are like, oh, the Order 1886 would be perfect for co-op. That's until you play the game. And you realize, no, it isn't, because their story, there's a lot of times that those other, like I said, I gotta be careful with what I say, because I don't want to ruin anything, but once you play the game, you'll understand what I'm saying. Co-op would not work for this game. But what they could have done is had missions exclusively for co-op. So you do these co-op missions, and maybe they have like a side story or something like that. So I'm hoping the game sells really well. Like I said, I gave the game a 9. We'll see what everyone else's reviews are tomorrow, or they'll already be out when you guys listen to this. But I think the game is a solid 9, and I expect to see solid 9s from other outlets. We'll see what happens. Obviously, gaming taste can be different, but I expect it to review very, very, very well, because there's just not many problems with the game. There just isn't. It's just the lack of replayability is the main thing. Is once you beat the game, all you can do is replay certain missions, or you can redo it again. I'm definitely going to play the game again. I'm actually streaming it. Well, this is too late because I'd already streamed when this comes out, but I'm streaming again tomorrow, and I'm streaming the Order 1886 the day before it comes out. and I'll be starting from the beginning because obviously Sony doesn't want me streaming anything beyond a certain point because they don't want me to ruin the game. Which is perfectly understandable. So I'm looking forward to playing the game again. I had a blast, absolutely loved it. Like a lot of games, you're like, oh, is this story's dragging on, or oh, will the game just end? No, not once did I feel like it was dragging on. It had me intrigued the entire time. The entire time. If anything, when I got to the end, I was like, oh man, it's over. Like, man, I don't want it to be over. It's so good. So yeah, that's kind of like my brief overview of the game. If you haven't played it before, highly, highly, highly recommend you play it. If you have money to buy it, go buy it. If you don't have the money to buy it, rent it or borrow it from a friend. Because like I said, once you beat it, unless you want to play through it again, it's limited in replayability. So the thing that sucks is that Ready at Dawn has come out and said that they won't put multiplayer into it, even with like a DLC or anything. So maybe a future of the order, but I'm handing it over to Anthony and John now. Any questions, any thoughts on what I've said about the game?
So there's been a lot of talk about the length of the campaign. Does that, now you were saying the campaign is really good and the story is almost to like Naughty Dog level. Is it worth the amount of, well, I guess how long did it take you to finish the game, pretty much?
I didn't time myself, but I would say probably about 9 to 10 hours would be my guess. Here's the thing. First of all, in the order, I don't think they don't let you skip the cutscenes, first of all, okay? So I think I was reading somewhere that there's about it's like 6 hours of gameplay, and then maybe like 4 hours or 3 hours of like cutscenes and stuff. Which that sounds, I think like 6 hours of gameplay, 3 hours of cutscenes, that actually sounds reasonable to me. Because another thing is that the Order is not an easy game. I will say that. Like there are certain points in the game where you're gonna get pissed off. And I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but there is one specific, I'll just say thing for now, that you have to deal with several times throughout the game that will piss you off. And once you figure out how to take care of them, it's not too bad. But they're very frustrating. But as far as the time goes, you're playing the game, you're enjoying the cutscenes, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what to do because it's your first time playing, easily I'd say it's a 9 to 10 hour game. If you play through it again, already knowing kind of the ins and outs, yeah, you might be able to beat it in, let's say, 7 hours. But 3 hours was something that someone threw out there, and even Ready at Dawn came out and said, you're crazy. There's no way you can beat this game in 3 hours. 5 hours was the next thing. Well, that's 5 hours of gameplay. So if you play the second time, you already know what you're doing. Yeah, you can probably beat it 7, maybe 6 hours, maybe, but that's cutting it close, maybe. But it's a decent length game.
That pretty much just that answers my only question aside from the multiplayer question. But what about you, Anthony?
Hearing Nick and seeing his text about how stoked he is over the phone, I swear, it's like you could like feel the excitement radiating.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm so
phone.
excited for you guys to get your hands on it because, like, it's, oh my gosh, like I want you guys to play it and be like, oh my gosh, Nick was not joking. This game, like, here's the thing.
Here's the reason why I'm so.
The Order has anticipation, but it does not have as much anticipation as it should. Like, you play the game, and then you look at the anticipation. Like, yeah, people are looking forward to the Order, but you're not here unless you're a hardcore gamer and in tune with all this stuff. You don't really know what this Order thing is or whatever.
Oh, it takes place at Victoria. Don't care.
Yeah, but when you play it,
Victorian England, don't care.
You play it, you're like, this game should have like the freaking promotion of Destiny. Like, it's so cinematic and good. Like, I just really, really hope that the game sells well, because I would absolutely hate to see a game that is this revolutionary. Because seriously, as far as storytelling goes, it revolutionizes cutscenes to gameplay. No other game is this intuitive and smooth with it. So I just really hope to see it do well, and then Ready at Dawn they'll pretty much have to come out with a sequel for it. They make it good, and then maybe they hire a team of guys to focus on the multiplayer and maybe co-op, but they keep the same team for the story, so the story doesn't suffer. So that's what I'm hoping happens, because if they execute this correctly, the Order has the opportunity to be just as big as Gears of War. It perfectly has the opportunity. The Order has better story than Gears of War. I personally think
to be honest, I don't think it was that hard to make a better story than Gears.
Well, yeah, the Gears of War. Well, I'm just comparing every single aspect. You look at the Order to Gears of War, okay? Story, it's a million times better as far as story goes. How it controls, I personally prefer how the Order controls. I can see that being an opinion, but I prefer how the Order controls. I think it's much more rewarding when you kill people. I like how you maneuver. I think it plays a little bit better. Graphic, well, obviously Gears of War hasn't been one on the new consoles yet, but as far as just the way the story's told, there's just no comparison. So, and I'm a huge Gears of War fan. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Gears of War fan. But as far as a quality of the game, there's just no comparison between the Order and Gears of War. It's completely blows it out of the water. So the Order has the opportunity to be as big as Gears of War. Absolutely. It has the opportunity to sell 5 to 7 million copies every time it comes out. We'll see what happens, though. I'm hoping that a bunch of other outlets agree with me. And it gets a bunch of 9s, maybe a couple 10s, because review scores make a big difference. And hopefully get maybe some 8s, but 8 to 10s across the board. You're like, oh, I need to go buy this game. And then it sells enough, so okay, Ready at Dawn. Guess what? It's sold really well. We're working on the next order. So, and who knows? Maybe they'll release some DLC for it. Maybe they'll add an additional story if it sells well. Because obviously they're not going to release DLC for a game that doesn't sell well. So, what were you going to say, Anthony?
I am a sucker for cinematic games. Just ask my constant need to buy BioWare games, even though I say I don't care, I buy them anyways. Even Dragon Age Inquisition,
dude,
because I am a sucker for cinematic games.
You're gonna be floored. You're gonna be absolutely floored,
because I love cinematic games, and to me, Mass Effect 2 was one of them. Mass Effect 2 was just kind of like, here, you can have a game that you can enjoy playing and watch at the same time.
Here's the thing, Mass Effect is really good, okay? Mass Effect cinematics are great, and Mass Effect may have arguably been one of your better games for cinematics. There's just no comparison, man. This puts Mass Effect to shame, and that's saying a lot. Yeah. But
I know, like the case of Mass Effect, it was kind of more like they had some limitations, so they couldn't make it as much of a movie, but they did the best with what they had, and that's why Mass Effect 2 came out as good as it did. Like The Order, like I remember I played it at E3 and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting, but I think I remember thinking, controls feel kind of clunky. And I was like,
it controls a lot better.
That's cool. That's good. Man, it's amazing what 6 or 7 months of work can do for you.
Well, yeah, this thing, The Order was originally supposed to, because here's the thing, the first time I ever saw The Order gameplay was actually before anyone else saw it, because I went to a PlayStation event last February, and that's the first time they had showed The Order gameplay, and I got to see them playing it. And I was just amazed. But to see, like, it's amazing to see how these games, the progression. That's the cool thing about going to, like, these events. Like, so, for example, like, Drive Club. I played that at E3 2013. Not 2014, 2013. The year it was supposed to come out. It was supposed to launch with the PlayStation 4. And I was not impressed whatsoever. I was like, what a bust. And they delayed it, like, an entire year. And it came out much better. Like, yes, they had their online server problems. But other than that, it's a good game. And it looks absolutely gorgeous. The Order, Anthony and I played at E3. It looked gorgeous. And The Order was supposed to come out end of this year. End of 2014, sorry. End of 2014. And they delayed it like 3 or 4 months. And I'm glad they did, because whatever they needed that 3 to 4 months to work on certainly worked. Because, like I said, I had no issues with the game whatsoever. Frame rate never dipped. No issues at all. Simply incredible.
Yeah, that's just something I kind of. Yeah, that's just something that I kind of wish like more studios would do. Just like, look, if your game's not ready, just delay it a bit, because I feel like, especially in the case of Assassin's Creed and Dragon Age, it was like a case of, you could really tell they had to shove this out the door because there's like a lot of hiccups in here, like technical hiccups. Obviously, story, well, that's kind of written before the game's even fully implemented, so way before a game's fully implemented, so okay, yeah. But there was like a lot of hiccups, and they could have tuned things to make it better.
Oh yeah, they're like right now, so they're gonna have a new Assassin's Creed this year. Of course, Assassin's Creed's become this yearly thing, which I think is stupid, but they're gonna be coming out with another Assassin's Creed. So they're probably writing and possibly finishing up the story for the Assassin's Creed for 2016 right now. Like they're way ahead of time as far as.
I mean, that's what game development is. It's just like with game development, especially when you put out a game every year, you're kind of having like the writers aren't doing anything. Well, they're doing the next game. Like literally, like they're literally a game or two ahead of what the entire engineering team is doing.
Well, yeah, because you can't build anything until you know the story. Like, that doesn't even make sense. You have to know, okay, like, what's going to be happening? Where is this taking place? You can't do any of that until you have a story set. So, the story, I mean, they may be working on the story for 2017 right now. I don't know what the timing is on that. But, I mean, look at some of these games and how long they take to come out. I mean, freaking Metal Gear, for example. Metal Gear Solid 4. Came out, what, 2007, I think?
It was,
or was it 2008?
6. I think it was
2006?
No, 2006.
No.
Sorry. 2008. 2008. Yes.
Okay, 2000.
Because Grand Theft Auto 4 came out that same year. So
okay,
I know that. It was a year of 4s.
2008. So when that game comes out, it's a 7-year difference. So that just makes me feel super old to think that Metal Gear Solid 4 came out like 7 years ago. That's scary.
But you play and it still feels modern.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine if I were to play Metal Gear 4 today, it would still feel modern, and it will still look good.
That's how The Last of Us is. If you play The Last of Us on PS3,
I know, but The Last of Us, you kind of... Yeah, but in the case of The Last of Us, you kind of see it coming because it's like, oh yeah, it's the end of the cycle, they figured everything out, but Metal Gear 4, this is like way back in the PS3's still early days when Sony was still freaking out trying to make the thing cheaper.
Well, yeah, I remember I got a PS3 launch bundle. I camped out with my dad for like 24 hours to get one. I got it day one, the $600 beast. So excited for it. So I got that. And it crapped out on me like a week before the Metal Gear bundle. And I had Best Buy's replacement plan on it. So they're like, well, I was like, okay, well, let me bring it in. How about you guys give me credit for it now, and then I'll buy the bundle coming out next week. They're like, okay, we'll do that. So they gave me credit, and that's what I did. I bought the Metal Gear PS3 bundle, and that was the last PS3 to come out that supported backwards compatibility. But that game just, for its time, like Anthony said, it still looks good, but for its time, it looked unbelievable.
For its time, I would say that as far as tech went, I couldn't believe the things that it was doing. Because I remember this is like 2008, and I was still kind of new to console gaming at the time. Like, I was like becoming a gaming enthusiast around 2008, and I was still transitioning into it. And there were things in that game that completely floored me away, even though I wasn't playing it on an HD TV at all. It was like some 480.
Wow.
It was some 480p TV. It said it supported 1080i, but to be honest, it's a 4x3 heavy CRT television. No joke. But even then, there were things that blew me away. People were really smart. Game looked absolutely amazing. I can't believe that they put so cutscenes that freaking long and went through the whole effort of choreographing that entire freaking cutscenes. I'm not joking. I remember when one of those briefings started, I would go and eat dinner, and by the time I finished eating dinner, the cutscene was still going.
Well, yeah,
it was crazy.
The final cutscene for that game was like almost an hour, I think.
Oh my goodness. Freaking, yeah, they took forever to do that, but freaking, it's not just them making some glorified movie either that was really cheesy. I think the thing that I remember the most is when you went on the ship and you fought against, I think, Psycho Mantis, right? No joke, Psycho Mantis actually checked if your controller had rumble or not. Like, to me, now, yes, I understand that freaking Metal Gear 1 did something where you have to switch your controller ports and to make your game work, and I get that. But still, to me at the time, the fact that Psycho Mantis was sitting there flipping out that you didn't have Rumble in your controller was pretty darn awesome for me.
Yeah, there was something else they did something like that, like one of those little quirky things. I'm trying to remember, what was it?
They used the pressure-sensitive buttons on the PS3 in a good way. Like, because 6-axis, one of the things about 6-axis was pressure-sensitive buttons, which I think the DualShock 2 also has, so it's been a thing with PlayStation. Freaking, yeah, just hold that R1 just a little tight to suffocate the guy to death. Oh, wow. And then, what's another cool thing?
Well, imagine what's going to happen with Metal Gear Solid 5 with the DualShock 4. You got a microphone.
And you have to remember when we saw it,
the touchpad.
Here's the thing: you remember in 2013, right? This is just after the Xbox One was unveiled, and we thought it was the junkiest thing we've ever seen. And they showed Metal Gear 5, and I wasn't 100% sure if I was looking at a CG or gameplay until they panned the camera. And then I knew I was sawing a game that almost looked CG, and that was almost 2 years ago. What's going to happen when that game comes out this year on a PlayStation 4? Because that ran on because back then it ran on an Xbox One prototype, I think.
Or for me, I'm going to be running that baby on my PC. Imagine what that's going to look like.
Oh my god, it's going to do some really whacked up shit with your PC, knowing how Psycho Mantis works, if there is a Psycho Mantis in that game. But yeah, another crazy thing about Metal Gear 4, uncompressed audio. Because they frickin' actually, I think they either filled up or almost completely filled up that Blu-ray disc in 2008 with uncompressed audio. That's why when the Metal Gear Collection came out, they couldn't put Metal Gear 4 on the Xbox 360. It's because it would take like 10 DVDs. But yeah, frickin', I was so technically impressed from Metal Gear 4. And that game just doesn't feel old. Like, I could play it today and still think it's pretty up to date. And freaking, I love some of the stupid things. I love some of the stupid ideas they put into it. Like, Snake could carry like 10,000 bullets on any weapon. You know what? I like that. I really like that. Because it's Snake. He'll have bullets for anything and everything. And then I just love these little things you could do. It's just like, now, your silencer doesn't, your little tranquilizer shot thingy, whatever it's called. You can shoot more than just put people to sleep. You can make them scream. You can make them freak out like children. You can make them laugh like maniacs. You can make them pissed off at each other. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And
I kind of like the monkey in that game is awesome.
Drebin
and the monkey. Wow. Yeah. those.
You know what? What blew me away when that game came out was the cutscene with Raiden and Vamp. That
you were
cutscene blew my mind.
Like, you were fighting geckos while the whole thing was going about, right?
Yeah.
I'm just joking. Like, that to me is one of those things that doesn't really get old, is that you've got 2 cameras with scenes that I think are rendered in real time. Because on one side of the screen is Vamp and Raiden fighting off. On the left screen, I think, is Snake shooting geckos with this giant laser. Wow.
Yeah, man, that was amazing. I'll never forget that for sure.
Well, trust me, you guys are gonna have a moment or two like that with the Order. I know there's one specific, and I'm not gonna say it, but there's this one point in the game that really stands out to me. Like, you know, with Metal Gear Solid 4, like at the very end of the game where you actually have like that fighting segment. You guys know what I'm talking about? Metal Gear Solid 4.
You mean the fight between Liquid and Solid Snake?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that stands out to me in Metal Gear Solid 4. Well, the Order has something that's very similar to that, and you're just like, is this really happening? Like, oh, it's just like the game. Oh my god, it's so impressive. Like, I cannot wait till you guys freaking play that damn game.
So if we had talked about this like a few days ago, I probably would not have gotten Dying Light. And I probably would have waited for the Order. I mean, I'm pretty bummed that there's no multiplayer, but I love a good story. And like Anthony, I love cinematics. So Yeah,
Well, here's
I
the
mean,
thing. I wouldn't be too bummed out because Dying Light's an awesome game too. I'm loving Dying Light just because that game's a lot different than all the games you have out right now. I'm loving that game. Yeah, here's the thing. Like I said, if you can't buy the game, I would find a way to just get your hands on it. I know Bronson's getting it from GameFly, but obviously it's going to take him time to beat the game. So I don't know if he'll beat it fast enough for you to get your hands on it or what the situation will be. Anthony, what are your plans for the? Are you going to buy it or what are your plans to play it?
I have a bit of a backlog, and there are like other things I need to do. Like after the explosion of excitement over the text and the fact that I'm a sucker for cinematic games, I am now very interested in it. I don't know if I'm gonna get it.
You guys have to get your hand. Like if you can't buy it, I understand. I don't think you guys have GameFly, so obviously there's no other way to rent it. It's not like Blockbuster exists anymore.
Yeah, like for me, it's like maybe it's gonna be something I'll get like a month or two down the line. Like it's.
But you can check. I know some Redbox units are starting to put like new games in there, so maybe check to see if you have any local Redbox that are gonna have it. And then okay. I think they charge like $2 or $2.50 a day. Which if you play, you can beat it in 2 days easily. Or I mean, it took me a little bit more because I was busy and didn't have as much time as I wanted to. But you can beat it in 2 days, 3 days. So
I'm starting to think that because it's a cinematic game, I'm gonna be like, I think I might do a video review of it if I buy it. Because, and you know what?
It's sitting definitely here now, the type of game you want to show off for real. Seriously,
yeah, there's enough cinematics to make your own fan trailer for sure. But, now I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself like, why didn't I put this in my top 10 anticipated game list? Because the reason why I didn't put it in my top 10 list was like. Yeah, it's very cinematic, but it's one thing to look cinematic, it's another thing to kind of feel like an awesome cinematic, in addition to actually playing decently enough that, people are willing to go through it. And I guess, like, I didn't really have interest, because I guess it's like the E3 demo I played, so I said, man, it feels a little clunky, and yeah, it has awesome cinematics, but I'm not really sure about it, so I guess that's why I didn't really make it to my top 10. And now hearing this, I'm like, maybe I should rethink that list if I were to do it again.
And I put this in my review. If it were not for the lack of replayability, this game would have been my game of the year last year. Without a doubt, would have been my game of the year last year. Now, last year wasn't the best year, but there was plenty of good games. So I love Far Cry 4. Don't get me wrong. Far Cry 4 would still be my game of the year just because Far Cry 4 lasts you forever and there's multiplayer and there's co-op and all this stuff. But as far as story goes, I think The Order, the best story of any current console game. Sorry, let me correct that. Any game that's come out on the current consoles, I should say. So like remakes don't count and all that stuff.
Okay, because I was kind of sitting here and I think to myself,
like as the game unfolds, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Or oh, I really side with this person. Or at the end, you're just gonna be mind fucked. Like that's what happened to me. Like at the end, I was like, and you look at what happened, and you think, and you're like, okay, that made sense. That made sense. And you're like, holy shit, that means this. Like it's super freaking cool. Like I said, you guys just have to play the game. That's all I gotta say. I know Bronson's getting it on GameFly, so he said that he should have it by Saturday. So Bronson will have his hands on it. But yeah, we should definitely do a 60-minute access on that game. I think isn't Bremen buying it too?
I'm not sure.
I don't know about that. I mean, he's been pretty short on funds as of late from getting back from his trip.
Got it.
The thing about replayability is, this kind of brings up a really good point, is when you make a cinematic game, and when you make a very cinematic game, it's kind of like a movie, in a sense that you've seen the movie, but you don't really go back and watch that whole movie again right away, except maybe certain highlights. That's how I watch most movies. Is that?
Oh well, I will say is I'm actually thoroughly enjoying playing through the Order again, like really, really soon. Like the Order, it's so fun that.
But when you make a cinematic game, like a cinematic game that had good replayability, I always go back to Mass Effect 2 because in the case of Mass Effect 2, you wanted to go back and play that game again. Why? Because well, what if Shepard was a renegade? Like for sure you would want to go back and have Shepard be a total asshat instead of being an angel. You want to see Shepard look like a freaking Terminator with like glowing red eyes and his skin tearing apart, and then you see his kind of like that kind of stuff. You want to go back and replay because of that. And what if you know what, in Mass Effect 3 that you could do this for replayability, I didn't, but what if I shot Mordin? Instead of letting him cure the Genophage, I shot Mordin so the Genophage still existed.
But that's like they're two completely different games. I mean, like I completely agree with you, but this game is it sounds like a pretty linear third-person shooter.
Yeah, it is linear.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the least they could have done is like throw in some collectibles. Do they have collectibles?
No, they have like little like paper pieces you can read, like kind of like lore in the game, but no, there's like not collectibles or like I said, as far as replayability, there's just really nothing. Like I said, the game, the single player is unbelievable, but it's just like, okay, that's it though. That's the only problem with it. And I mean, it's just kind of a big problem because you're like telling people, okay, buy this game for $60. But there's only so much you can do and play the story. I mean, if they would have put in some multiplayer, or they would have maybe added some co-op missions or something like that, it would have, without a doubt, then it would have been like, oh crap, now I really have to look for something, so I can't give this game a perfect 10, or maybe it gets a 9.5. But yeah, pretty much it's the story and that's it. Like I said, the story is really, really good. The gameplay is really, really good. So I still highly recommend it. But if you're strapped for cash, as good as the game is, I would say at least rent the game. That way you get to play and experience it. But if you really like cinematic experiences and stuff like that, then you'll probably want to play this game a couple times. I know I am. Like I said, I'll be playing the game for sure. Probably I'll beat it again. Probably by end of March I'll beat it again. Maybe even before that. And I may even play it a third time later on. It's so good. So
I'll definitely be checking it out sometime soon, hopefully. But we'll definitely have to see.
yeah, but you got Dying Light. Dying Light's, there's so much stuff to do in that game. So you'll definitely get more time with Dying Light than you would the Order. So Dying Light was a good purchase. I highly recommend it. I've been really, really enjoying the game. So we'll see what you think when you get to play it on consoles. So like I said, guys, my review's up. So please read the review. Let me know what you think. When you guys play the game, I'd be curious to hear what all you guys think about the game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Moving along.
My PS4 just froze in a slightly scary way.
Uh-oh.
Oh crap. Because I just installed the system update to it, which supposedly makes the system more stable, and it just installed a giant patch for Drive Club, and then when I put the disc in for Drive Club and boot it, the whole system froze up. So great job repairing.
Hopefully it's fine.
Great job restoring stability there. I had to hold down the button for like a good 10 seconds, and now I just only hope that the whole hard drive has not been wiped out because I forced the thing off.
That's frightening.
Yeah, because I've seen Bronson's whole hard drive got wiped on his PS4, but thankfully his system was still new, so he didn't lose much. So hopefully Cloud will come to my rescue on this one. If the whole system screws up.
Yeah.
So
recently there was a panel for the Order 1886, because obviously they're really promoting the game. A couple things. it's possible that they will release story-focused DLC. Pretty much, that just comes down to if the game sells well, they'll do it. If it doesn't sell well, they won't. That simple. No multiplayer planned. They hinted at a sequel.
Honest though, I really don't think it's like if you don't think the game's gonna work out with multiplayer, then don't put multiplayer. Don't
Well, here's the
force
way
it
I
in.
look at it. I look at it like how Uncharted came out. Okay, so Uncharted came out, was really, really good, but didn't have multiplayer. Yes, it had collectibles, but did not have multiplayer. They came with Uncharted 2, and they delivered an awesome story and an awesome multiplayer. That's what I hope they do with The Order. Is because the problem is that if you take your team and then split it, so some of them are working on multiplayer to the story, then you're probably gonna have a bad experience because the single player is gonna suffer. But if you expand your team and you put those other guys onto the multiplayer, so your single player doesn't suffer, that's where you're more likely to deliver a better experience. Because I'll say this, after playing the game, I definitely see how they could have built multiplayer into this game. Absolutely. Absolutely, I could have seen how they built multiplayer. And it'd been freaking amazing. The weapons in the game are also super badass. Like, there's some weapons you're just like, ooh, it feels so good to kill someone with it. So awesome.
Yeah, the thing about multiplayer is that even though multiplayer has the potential to be good in a lot of games, my personal opinion is like if you feel it's not gonna work out, then don't do it. Because freaking when I played the Dragon Age Inquisition multiplayer, I really was thinking to myself, this is one hell of an afterthought that they could have spent their time fixing the game instead of, oh, I don't know, let's shove in this quick multiplayer. Point A to point B. Clear rooms. Goodbye. Good luck. Bye. See, we got multiplayer. It'll sell.
Yeah, that decision was a bad one. I'll agree with you on that. Really love Dragon Age, but multiplayer.
Like, Mass Effect was better because it was essentially horde mode, but Mass Effect. But you know what? Okay, fine. It's shooters. I get to play as Turians, which is awesome. And
I mean, what I really
okay.
liked.
Sorry, you're saying?
The fact that the multiplayer in Mass Effect affected the single player was really awesome.
Yeah, that was
it
the other
gave
thing
you, like,
too, is
some
that
different
Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, despite the fact that I thought it was kind of a more shallow version of Horde from Gears 3, it freaking tied to your single player, saying, hey, if you play the multiplayer, your galaxy actually has a slightly better your army has a slightly better chance of living at the end. Which freaking that game had various endings depending how prepared you were, and if you weren't prepared, you're so screwed. Which is pretty much it. And Dragon Age, it's like it does nothing. And when I looked up on like YouTube comments, nobody talked about the multiplayer. They all just talked about, you know, Skyhold and this moment and that moment and doing this. They never talked about the multiplayer, and I just kind of felt like, yeah, it literally is an afterthought, and I don't know why they wanted to put it in, because the Dragon Age gameplay is you managing your team on a micromanaging level, but in the multiplayer it's just you controlling some slightly clumsy character doing things and stabbing stuff while protecting someone.
Yeah, there really wasn't any point to that multiplayer other than it being multiplayer.
It's just there because we have to.
But
It'll help.
I could definitely see how they could have done multiplayer for that. Like I said, there's one thing I'd bring up, but I'm not going to bring it up because it kind of ruins what happens in the story, so I won't bring it up. But they could have definitely done something, like not necessarily team deathmatch, capture the flag stuff. But they could have done some stuff for sure. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see it with the sequel. But yeah, they hinted at a sequel, which, duh, if the game sells well, they're going to do a sequel. And they hinted at it being more open world, which that would be awesome. Because here's the thing I will say with the Order 1886, it is very linear. Like, very linear. Meaning that there's not, like, any, like, oh, me go adventure here, or any of that. No, it's very linear. It's about as linear as a game can get. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It works very well, but it would be cool to see what they could do if they made a more open world. The Order, like something similar to how like Assassin's Creed works, where it's like you can explore like this entire town and blah 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 blah. I think that would be pretty sweet. But it's pretty much all going to come down to how well the game sells. So that's why I'm personally hoping the game sells pretty well. They said the storyline has been planned from 1886 to the present day. So that means they have plans to make various sequels, 1886 to the present day, which means they can make a ton of sequels. Once again, it's just going to come down to how well the game sells.
I imagine right now it's more like a skeleton outline, because obviously they didn't like write entire novels before they made the game, because that would be kind of be a waste of time and money.
Well, yeah.
So I'm pretty sure they have a skeleton. That would be very interesting.
Yeah. And then the biggest inspiration for the game, Metal Gear Solid, which, yes, there's definitely tastes of Metal Gear Solid in the game. Alien, James Bond, and The Last of Us. It's definitely, I'd say, it has definitely a lot of clear inspiration from Metal Gear and The Last of Us for sure. There are a lot of parts you're like, oh my gosh, that looks just like The Last of Us, or this plays just like The Last of Us. You can definitely tell they got some inspiration from The Last of Us for sure. So that's the Order 1886, guys. If you have the money, go buy it. If you don't have the money, find a way to play it. It's that good. Moving along, PlayStation. In the PlayStation Blogcast, which is the official PlayStation podcast they put out on the PlayStation blog every year, they hinted at some secrets for 2015. Of course, they have secret games, but it's always good hearing, oh yeah, we got some stuff. So Sony said, we just put out a list of every game coming to PS4, PS3, and PS Vita this year. Vita, that's funny. Every game that is currently known. There may be some secrets out there. Maybe we'll announce some new games this year. Maybe someone else will. Who knows? So, of course, we're going to see something new. I mean, it's just like what E3 this year. People are like, oh, yeah, nothing's coming out this year for Sony exclusive, but Drive Club. And then Sony announced Little Big Planet 3 during the press conference, and everyone went nuts. But then the game wasn't that good, and it didn't sell.
It wasn't even
well
exclusive.
either.
It was on PS3 also.
Well, yeah, but it was a PlayStation exclusive title.
Yeah.
So people were just like, at E3, you're like, I mean, you were there, Anthony. People were like super stoked. They like got a standing ovation.
This is one of the things that baffled me about last E3, having finished 2014, was that when Little Big Planet 3 was announced, everyone was like, because they did this after the infamous First Light trailer, and then just boom, a picture of Little Big Planet 3 logo just pops on the whole giant display screen stuff, and everyone's like, oh yeah, woo! And then you got Swoop, and you got like new characters, and we got to play the demo, which was the same one that they showed on the stage at E3. And it was actually looking pretty good, but that's just from me. My viewpoint is I've never played Little Big Planet, so I thought it was pretty interesting. And then when it came out, nobody noticed. Nobody talked about it. Friggin', like, some of us probably even forgot that it came out in November. It was, like, overshadowed by the Master Chief Collection and Dragon Age and Call of Duty and whatever else came out in November.
Yeah, Assassin's
Creed. It just got overshadowed, and I'm like, oh, wait, Little Big Planet 3 came out. What? It is only a mildly improved Little Big Planet 2? Oh, that sounds disappointing.
I think what happened there is Sony was probably like, oh yeah, we're working on Little Big Planet 3 for the PlayStation 4, and then Sony's like, holy crap, the order got delayed. We have nothing coming out but Drive Club. Okay, let's just push Little Big Planet 3 out so that we have something. I'm pretty sure that's what probably happened.
Man, the PS4 last year, as far as exclusives go, and I do mean like PS4 exclusives and stuff you can't get on the PS3 also, it was depressing. Because this is basically what we had for a top 3 exclusive list when we sat down and read through the entire release list just to make sure we didn't miss anything. So we had Infamous Second Son, we had the downloadable game Infamous First Light, and a car game. That's it. That was all that we could come up with.
Yeah, but
Drive Club was not exactly as big of a wonder as it could have been because it spent a whole month freaking out with its servers. Infamous First Light eventually became a PS Plus game, and Infamous Second Son came out way in March. So it was just kind of baffling, really, because the PS4 just didn't really have much for the year. It just had a lot of news for the next year, which is the year we're sitting in right now.
Yeah, that's kind of how the PS3 was, though. PS3 came out with Resistance, and then it came out with like Heavenly Sword, which, God, I want a Heavenly Sword sequel. I love that game so much. They came out with Heavenly Sword like the following year, and then that's when you got like Uncharted, Metal Gear. That's when things got crazy. So yeah, I mean this year, let's look at all the big PlayStation games coming out this year. We have The Order, which comes out, which is out by the time this podcast is out. We have Bloodborne. We'll see how that goes. We have Uncharted. What else do we got? I know I'm missing a few here. I know there's more. They're just not coming to my mind right now. But there's more PlayStation 4 exclusives, and there's gonna be more announced. And
It's gonna be Uncharted 4.
Yeah, Uncharted 4 is coming out. Yeah, I said that. Uncharted 4 is the big game for this year. That's pretty much exactly why Microsoft signed and paid the money to get Tomb Raider exclusives, so that they have something to compete with Uncharted this year. Because Microsoft probably doesn't have anything coming out into this year. So they're like, oh, well, Tomb Raider is kind of similar, so let's make Tomb Raider exclusive, and then we can compete with Uncharted. So that's probably what happened there.
You're going up against Naughty Dog. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're up against Naughty Dog, and they're like one of the best studios in the freaking business right now. I mean, Tomb Raider is good. I can understand that, but you're up against Naughty Dog, people.
Yeah,
I mean, I know you're trying to compete, so
nuts.
you have something to go up against them, but it's Naughty Dog, guys.
Naughty Dog is they're on a whole nother level.
I mean, it's like Naughty Dog and Nintendo, they're just on a different level, and Rockstar, or at least the Rockstar studio that makes Grand Theft Auto, they're also kind of up there too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I definitely would say that Naughty Dog and Rockstar are without a doubt in the top 5 companies.
Yeah, and I would say like
sure.
Nintendo's Zelda and Smash, and
Oh,
I would say that
for sure.
yeah, because obviously Nintendo has a lot of software divisions, just like how Rockstar has a lot of software divisions. So I'd say among I'd say maybe I wouldn't say Smash Brothers, but like the Super Mario and the Legend of Zelda teams. Those would be some of the top developers right there, and even maybe even
Miyamoto's teams.
Yeah, freaking Miyamoto. Hey, dude,
Yeah,
the guy's
I would
like
say-
60 years old now.
Yeah, like I would say, yeah, because Wii Music was like the best game ever. Just saying.
That was the most painful
everyone has
reveal I've
everyone has
ever
their
got
losses.
hyped up for.
I
I'm not
would say
joking.
they
I
win them all the
was.
time.
They dimmed the lights, and I was getting so stoked, and then that catastrophe happened, and I was like, man, the bubble got burst really hard that day. I was just like, oh my goodness, this was the stuff you dimmed your lights for. It could have been anything. It could have been Star Fox. It could have been F-Zero. It could have been anything for your Wii, but Wii Music. Oh my goodness. That was when I started thinking that E3 had become this giant investor show instead of a gaming enthusiast show.
Yeah, if I had to think,
Because
like,
that's what
top
E3
three
was like. It was even
companies-
called a media summit, I think it was called at one point. When they went from 06 to 07, they moved to some airport hangar in somewhere.
At
Yeah,
one point,
it was
they had it
brutal.
in Atlanta. They tried taking E3. They tried taking E3 to Vegas before. They've tried taking it to Atlanta. Here's the thing. I think Vegas would be perfect. Throw that in the Vegas Convention Center. That'd be freaking awesome.
The Las Vegas Convention Center is colossal. Because,
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I mean, obviously
That's why
CES is so huge that...
CES will never leave Vegas because there's no other convention center that can contain CES. It's so
I mean, yeah,
freaking
unless
huge.
you move it to a different country, which isn't going to really happen. But, yeah, like, Las Vegas Convention Center, I think is... It's either the biggest or the second biggest convention center in the entire country. And CES is so big that even it couldn't fit everything. Because... Or maybe it did. It's just that all the companies decided they need to rent out a gazillion rooms in the Venetian also to test for audio and all that
Well, yeah,
stuff.
see, that's the other thing with CES. The convention center for CES isn't even big enough. Like, you had, because that companies end up renting space from hotels and stuff. Like, that's how,
Like the Venetian, I remember...
let's
Well,
go to
here's the
CES,
thing, though.
you
Some of
don't
the
know how big
companies-
it is. When people think of CES, they're like, oh, the Vegas Convention Center, that's big. And then you realize, oh, wait, like, the whole Venetian is CES. And then you have these various companies that'll shuttle you to their hotels where they have space. And you have all your smaller companies that pretty much they get a penthouse suite or a suite, and then that's where they set up because it's a lot cheaper to do that than to get somewhere on the convention center floor. So,
well, to be honest, there's like
CES is Vegas. I've always said this. Like, you do not want to be in Vegas when CES is going on unless you're there for CES because all the nightclubs are booked for these events. And
I mean, here's the other thing too. I feel
so
like
if you're there and it's not CES, you're gonna have a bad Vegas trip.
It's not just a bad Vegas trip; it's an ultra expensive too. Because good luck finding a hotel room.
Oh, hotel rooms.
And if you do find one, it'll be really expensive.
Yeah,
I'm not joking. I'm not joking. At the MGM Grand, when I was looking at random prices on the week of CES, prices jump up like 5 or 6 or 8-fold or something.
Yeah,
it's really high.
I think that's the sign when I want to go to Vegas in early January, and they check hotels. They're like, holy crap, this room that's $50 a night is now $350 a night.
Here's the logic. You think, oh, it's just after New Year's, everyone's going home, right? Well, Vegas holds a lot of stuff, and CES is one of them. So, yeah, normally Vegas is pretty cheap because casinos really need business and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, CES.
Yeah, staying in Vegas is you can stay in the freaking nicest hotels for under $100 a night out in Vegas regularly. But
if it's New Year's CES, or just after or some holiday,
CES, if you don't stay at the Bellagio, Bellagio is like $450, $500 a night.
And that's the basic room.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is an international consumer electronics show. International. So you're talking about companies all over the world. All over the world. Like, we had, an interview with, this headphone company that comes from, I believe, France. Or some area around there. Or Belgium.
Oh, yeah. You will see people of every ethnicity there.
It's really interesting. It was also pretty interesting because, obviously, I am not a native of Asia. So it was really interesting when you would go there because things you learn about some Asians in Asia. They like to smoke. They like to gamble. And some of them are a little concerned they'll catch a disease, so you see them walking around with these medical masks. You know, the same air masks that you have if you...
Yeah, just like when our media blew up this whole Ebola thing, even though only a couple people here died, and we have other diseases that are killing people every day. And because of that, people would I remember I went to the airport once, and I'd say probably 1 out of 10 people were wearing one of those masks.
Yeah, well, in Asia, obviously these are middle-aged businessmen, so I now remember something about SARS happening over there and the bird flu. So, I'm like, okay, that's kind of understandable. You're traveling to a completely different country. You don't know what diseases you're going to catch on the way back home, and yeah.
Well, that's another thing at these events is there's just so many people. You're just bound to get sick. Because think about it. One person gets sick, and then they're walking to this crowded convention center. They cough. Well, he just infected 5 people. Now those 5 people are walking around. That 5 people infected 25 people.
It's like pandemic too, quick. Except in a convention center.
That's why, at PAX and Comic-Con, that's where you really got to be careful because there's a lot of people that don't take care of themselves. So there's where it's Comic-Con, I might wear a mask next time I go to Comic-Con because Comic-Con's pretty bad and it stinks in there. Because there's just a lot of people that haven't showered in God knows how long and do not know what deodorant is. It's pretty bad. I have a story. I'll just make this really quick. I remember the first time I went to Comic-Con, I can't remember who was talking, but there was this bunch of people just grouped around listening to this guy talk. And there's this one guy, and he had more space around him than anyone else. And I was like, that's interesting. Come to find out, there was literally small puddles on the ground. And he was sweating down out of his armpits onto the floor of the convention center. And the dude smelled so bad. You would be a good, 10, 15 feet away from him. You'd walk by, and the stench was so awful. And it's just this guy has not showered in weeks. And he's probably never put deodorant on in his life. It's so bad.
That's nasty.
And he was severely overweight. It was downright disgusting. And
so it was a really bad stereotype then.
Well, yeah, at E3 and CES, you're not likely to see that because for the most part, it's the media and professionals. PAX is a little bit different. PAX isn't as bad as Comic-Con because Comic-Con is very little media, and then pretty much everyone buys their way in. PAX, there's media, but it's still a lot of gamers. That, once again, fit that stereotype. But yeah, Comic Con's the worst. It's so bad. It can be pretty disgusting at Comic Con. So yeah. Excuse me.
Conventions. I mean, freaking like Vegas. It's the middle of January, so it's the middle of winter. Everyone's all over the place. Everyone kind of has like slightly different standards of cleanliness, and everyone's tired. And yeah, I think Bronson was sick about that time, or just came off getting sick. So there you go.
I will say I rarely ever get sick, but I'd say when I go to an event, I'd say 1 out of every 3 times I end up getting sick afterwards.
Yeah,
because yeah.
Oh, but and CES is not exactly what you call comfortable either, because let's be honest here, the shuttles are completely useless. So you either have your own car where you pay one,
the
you
shuttles, forget about that.
Yeah, they're not even shuttles. They're just basically long lines to move 10 feet.
Yeah, if you want to wait 2.5 hours to get back to your hotel from the convention center, you can take those free shuttles.
You can attempt to rent a car, but parking near the convention center or anywhere near close to it is like freaking. They take advantage like $50 a day to park in that lot for 1 day because everyone's thinking the exact same thing, and supply and demand happens. And so you have your own car. What else is not comfortable about it? Oh yeah, there's no chairs because everyone has the exact same idea. And inside the convention center, there's no chairs either. So if you buy food at the convention center, you're kind of out of luck because there's no place for you to sit. There's no tables, and whatever 2 tables there are, they're taken up by businessmen. So, but here's the thing: if you're an exhibitor, you're fine because your booth probably has a table for you already. But if you're media, you're kind of out of luck. Like Valve, they had some PC company. They had Gabe Newell there, and guess what? He got a couch to sit down and play some stuff, and I didn't even know that I was looking at Gabe Newell until I sent a picture to Bronson. He's like, "Dude, that's Gabe Newell," and I'm like, "What? Really? I thought Gabe Newell looked different than this because he had a beard and looked older." And I'm like, oh crap, for some reason I just have a good history of not noticing celebrities when they're right in front of me. Like I remember I was at this past E3, I was filming the Sega booth for some footage for our E3 behind the scenes stuff, and as I was filming it, I did not know that Hatsune Miku was standing 15 feet in front of me waving at me and waving at the camera. Until I came home, and then when I saw that, I got annoyed because I'm like, oh crap, I didn't know Hatsune Miku was standing right there waving at me. Shit. So
that's funny.
And I'm pretty sure that when I go back to that Sega booth and see that Hatsune Miku see Hatsune Miku there again, I'm pretty sure this time she's not gonna wave at me. So the one time she decided to give attention, I wasn't paying attention. That was a little infuriating.
That's funny.
But yeah, I saw Gabe Newell, didn't realize it.
When you go to an event like, less so with Comic-Con and PAX because they're smart and they just dodge those people, but like at E3, it's very common to run into well-known figures because it's mainly the media there, so they can walk around and
they can walk around and understand that these are most of the people there are professionals and not a paparazzi.
Whereas like PAX or Comic-Con, they can't do that because if Cliffy B goes walking around at PAX, he's just going to get mobbed. Whereas at E3, there was one time, this is my first E3, he was just walking like it was nothing, like, and that's how it is. Like Gabe Newell, who's worth freaking billions of dollars, he'll go walk and he'll go get a freaking sandwich or something. And for the most part, like, he might have a couple people stop him, but this isn't like the general population where people are gonna freaking tackle him and stuff. So, yeah.
I do have to say that Sony's booth at E3 felt a little strange, I should say, in field, because, and I guess it said a lot with their E3 press conference, because you know how at the E3 press conference they still try to keep that, we are the gamers people, we support what you guys are doing, we're cool, and then they had Mr. Corporate Suit be their new head of the Sony Computer Entertainment Division. Do you remember that part?
Yeah.
I somehow felt like Sony's E3 booth felt the same way, where, yeah, they tried to have like this sort of PAX-like atmosphere or gamer culture-like atmosphere because they had cosplayers walking around. You had GLaDOS and the Scientist, you had a Killzone Dude, and who else was there? But they had cosplayers
They
going
had
around.
Fat Princess there.
Yeah, they have Fat Princess there. So they had cosplayers going around, but at the same time, it felt a little sterile. It was just all kind of orderly and orderly, I guess is good. That's not the right word. It felt a little rigid and kind of all, yeah, this is a business trip. So I just kind of felt like, yeah, this is not really the Jack Trenton days here. You could tell there's some transition going on.
I mean, I'll give this guy more time, but Jack Trenton was freaking amazing. I love that
I know,
guy.
when that dude came out, I understand, like, yeah, don't judge a book by its cover, and, yeah, first impressions can be bad, and I understand that, but you just had this vibe that this dude, like, he worked in PlayStation for a while, he worked in networks, I think, and in the networking division or something like that, and I was just like, man, this guy...
It was so much different too, because like I said, I've been to E3 the past like 4 years or whatever, and it was just so different. Like when Jack Trenton hit the stage, like it was a standing ovation. It just straight, everyone was so psyched for Jack Trenton, and Jack Trenton ran that show. But then when this new guy came on, it was just like your standard clap. No one knows who this guy is.
It's like I tried to be nice about it, but I just had this feeling that's just like, hello there, Mr. Corporate Suit. How are you doing today?
Yeah, whereas like Microsoft, Phil Spencer, he was already well known.
He wasn't even wearing a suit when he walked up there. He was just kind of in his regular. I mean, it's still professional in a way, but it's not outlandish or anything. But it was kind of casual the way he dressed.
Right. Whereas like Sony, I was honestly surprised they didn't promote like Andrew House. Seems pretty cool. I like that guy.
He tried to, yeah. And Shohei Yoshida, I think, was the dude's name.
Yeah, Sony.
He's kind of up there.
Andrew House is pretty much. I think he's one step below the CEO. I might be wrong on that, but I think Andrew House. I really like him from what I've seen. So I think he might have been good, but who knows? We'll see. We'll give this guy some time. We'll see what happens. But Jack Trenton will definitely be missed. Jack Trenton he's that guy that he was awesome. Like no one put on a better press conference than Jack Trenton. Like he knew how to, like I will say this, like not this past E3, but the E3 before that. It's just when Sony was like just knocking Microsoft with like no DRM, no this, no that, blah 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 blah, like just the way Jack Trenton executed that, he couldn't have executed it more perfectly. Like it was perfect. And that's just how Jack Trenton was. Like he knew how to get the audience going. He knew how to put on a press conference. And this new guy, they're just kind of like, oh yeah, here's our new CEO, So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens in 2 to 3 years if we're talking about the same thing. He could be really good. Just up to this point, nothing quite impressive from him.
I'm starting to have this little thought running through the back of my head. Like, did Jack Trenton leave because he saw something wrong and then just left when times are good?
I hope not.
Yeah, because like the PS4 last year, it was like maybe a slight hit. It was a slight bump in the road when they didn't have any exclusives that were really there except Infamous and maybe Drive Club, and Xbox One had a price war, and Sony responded with, here's 2 games that you played last year, but shinier. Yeah, it was just, I mean, like, I understand the Grand Theft Auto 5 and The Last of Us are clearly, like, 2 of some of the best games that came out in 2013, but that was 2013.
It's not like the remastered Grand Theft Auto is exclusive to PlayStation 4 either. Yeah, Xbox One as well, so... Yeah. Alright, we'll move to the last news topic I have. Fans or people looking forward to Project Cars. It has been delayed again. So Project Cars was supposed to come out into last year, then they delayed it till March. Now it's delayed till April, so it's only delayed a month. But this is the reason why. Quote, moving a release date was not an easy decision to make, as we know our fans are eager to get their hands on with Project Cars. But we know that these extra days will allow us to provide the best game experience that our fans deserve. We assure you the wait will be worth it when the game does arrive early April. So it's only delayed a couple weeks, which is nothing serious. It's better they do that than come out with an issue like Drive Club, for example. Like, imagine if Drive Club they spent a couple weeks just making sure their servers were ready, and how much better the game would have sold, and how much better the feedback would have been on that game. So, I have not played Project Cars yet. I have seen it. It does look impressive. I might check it out on my PC once again since I have a high-end PC. I'd love to see what that game looks like. Anthony, I know you're a big fan of racing games. Does Project Cars interest you, excite you at all?
Maybe. I do remember Project Cars was like one of those things that kind of said, you thought Forza 5 cars looked good? Take a look at these. And at the time, I think it was a game that was being made for the PC, and I didn't think they didn't announce it for Xbox One or PS4 yet. But yeah, I might be interested in it. Is it a racing sim?
Yes.
Okay, that would be very interesting because you're up against some serious competition when you make a racing sim. Just ask Gran Turismo and Forza. Forza comes out every single year now. I mean, granted, Horizon's more of a...
The thing is, for PC, they don't have any competition currently. And
yeah, for PC, they don't have competition, but at the same time, nobody really wants to buy a racing wheel for PC. I mean, you could use a PS4 controller, yeah, but when you play PC sim racing games, you need a wheel, preferably. I mean, you can use a controller.
Well, yeah, all I'm going to do is use my controller. That's all I'm going to do.
Yeah, but Project Cars is very interesting because, yeah, for one thing, they have an opportunity to show off. It's like, you thought Drive Club cars looked good? Check this out. But at the same time, you're still kind of up against Gran Turismo and Forza. Forza like happens every year, and I understand Horizon more of an arcadey playground.
Yeah, because we're not going to see Gran Turismo for a while. So I don't necessarily.
I'd say like late 2016 is when I think Gran Turismo will happen.
Yeah, I think it'll come out holiday 2016. That'd be my guess.
Holiday 2016, and if they're crazy and take forever, maybe somewhere in 2017.
Yeah, like spring 2017, I can see that as well.
Nah, they want holiday season sales, so they'll put it towards the end. Unless...
Maybe. Didn't they put Gran Turismo 5 out during the spring?
I don't remember. I remember I bought my PS3 just for Gran Turismo 5, and it was December. So maybe it did come out that holiday season.
Got it.
Because that was the game I had to buy when I get my PlayStation. I mean, like, Uncharted's nice and all, and yeah, I would like to actually own Metal Gear instead of borrowing it, but I had to get Gran Turismo. Really awesome, but at the same time, kind of disappointing at the same time. Hey, everybody. Standard cars. But yeah, Project Cars, Racing Sim. Ooh, that's going to be interesting. Wonder what system I want to get it on, because my computer is due for a graphics card upgrade this year. So, I don't know, I could get it on PC, because freaking the PlayStation 4 controller works amazingly well with PCs. Obviously, you don't have the touchpad fully functional, because it's just a button and not a, mouse pad of sorts, I guess. But it works really, really well. So I don't know if I want to get it for PC, because I got a graphics card upgrade. I don't know if I want to get it for PS4, because, well, it's easier in quotes that way. But a racing sim, yeah. I wonder what they're going to do differently, because the only other racing sim that I played outside of GT and Forza is Need for Speed Shift 2. And Shift 2 was fine, but it kind of felt undrivable. It just felt like everything just felt really heavy and just kind of sloppy, and you're kind of all over the place. And they did a great job doing speed and, how scary it is to drive on the track. But Shift 2, Shift 2 is good-ish, I guess. So it'll be interesting what Project Cars does. That'll be nice. Also interesting to see how good it looks too, because I already know what Forza looks like, and it looks kind of like they didn't spend as much time on detailing as much as they could have, because the games have to come out every year or two. And currently, Drive Club and Project Cars is going to be like the only two racing games I get to see how good a Ferrari can look in this game. Speaking of which, there aren't actually that many racers on the new gen of systems. There's Need for Speed. There is a Need for Speed game, right?
Yeah, there's Need
Yeah.
for Speed.
Rivals. Okay, yeah, there's Need for Speed Rivals. There's Drive Club.
Drive
There's
Club.
Project Cars,
Motorsport
Forza.
5, Horizon 2. There's the Crew. I think that's it right now.
Yeah, and then
There's another Forza game too, right? And another
Yeah,
one coming.
Yeah,
yeah,
Motorsport
Forza
Forza
6.
4 and 5.
Forza 6 is
Forza
happening.
5 and 6.
It was going to happen anyways. And they're going to talk about how they got the hottest cars, and they're going to roll out the Ford GT at E3 this year. Because that's what they did last year. They brought the Lambo, and the year before that, they brought the McLaren.
Yeah, this past year, they didn't bring it up on the stage, though. They usually bring it up on the stage.
Yeah, because it's like, look, we got the car. We're cool. Now give us money.
Yeah.
Which I honestly sometimes think to myself, it's like, yeah, you've got the car, but I don't know. Like, to me, as an automotive enthusiast, just because you have a McLaren up on the stage doesn't mean you make the best racing game. It just says you managed to convince the people that you're the biggest. So you got the car. Or a mock model of the car. Like, this year they had the Lamborghini, and they parked it outside of the Gallon Center. I remember that one. And they also had it on sort of like on this rotating platform to display the car off of the Microsoft booth while the Forza Horizon demo continuously blares on loop. And there was a line to experience the Nürburgring in Forza 5, which I lined up for, but because there was only one wheel, and because it's the Nürburgring, a section of the Nürburgring where people took forever to get through, I stood in that line multiple times, never reached the wheel, because I would have stood there for like 2 hours just for this line of like 15 people. Was not worth it, because as much as I would love to drive in the Nürburgring and that really awesome wheel seat setup they had, just was not worth the 2 hours. So I walked into the Nintendo booth, which is like literally next door, I think, if I remember. I think it's like...
Yeah, it was.
Okay, good, because I can't remember if Sony was like in between Microsoft and Nintendo.
No, Microsoft and Nintendo were right next to each other.
Yeah, so I just went to Nintendo and just played Smash on 3DS and Hyrule Warriors and Captain Toad's Adventures. Yeah, that was it. Nintendo's... You walked in Nintendo's booth, and there's definitely something special about Nintendo's booth, because all the other booths are kind of like a little corporate, all grown up, 25-year-old gamer audience, gonna be hardcore, and it's gonna be aggressive and tough. And then you walk into Nintendo's, and there's just kind of like this light heart happiness to the place. Forget they have music playing in the background too, just like general background music from games that I can't really identify with some of them, and just kind of nice. And not to mention the lighting. Like, a lot of the places we've been to, they just like to drown everything out in dark or red lighting, and Nintendo was like the only place that actually put up is one of like the only few places that actually put up lights of more than 2 colors. Like, Sony is obviously white and blue, Microsoft is white and green, and Nintendo is just like this giant flourish thing, and 2K is a giant load of red in your face because they have this giant 2K logo light stand thing just sitting there. So that was interesting. Oh yeah, and Evolve, red and black and white lighting. Yeah.
Yeah.
E3 is really interesting.
For sure, I'm looking forward to it again.
It's only 4 months away, people. Only
Getting
4
close.
months. It's only 4 months at... Oh man, I just ran off.
It's getting close for sure.
Yeah. So anyways, that's my freaking E3 soapbox thing. I don't know.
Well, cool. Anything else you want to cover before we head into the comments and questions?
Not that I can really think of. I do want to clarify something. So I just checked out on the wiki article. So for the past several podcasts, whenever we talked about the PS4 and Xbox One and DirectX 12, I keep mentioning, oh, PS4 runs on some form of OpenGL. Well, according to the wiki article, which I don't 100% trust because it's wiki, they actually don't use OpenGL as far as I could tell. They use their own special graphics library.
Yeah, that's why they have their ICE team.
So that totally makes sense. So the ICE team totally makes sense now. I understand now. Because I thought they used OpenGL because it's not like there are that many graphics APIs out there that I know of. So I just want to correct on that. So, yeah.
Cool.
So I'm going to do a news check right now. In minor news,
I
Shadow
want
Mordor got a
to-
massive patch, and so did Drive Club when they put in new cars, and PlayStation now has System Update 2.04, which doesn't really do anything except make your system more stable, which is kind of ironic considering my system froze up, and I had to force shut it down. So yeah, there's that. Other than that, it's been a really dead news week, except for the launch of Monster Hunter 4, Majora's Mask, and the new Nintendo 3DS XL in North America. John, did you play Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate?
Yeah, I want to tell everyone to play it.
Cool.
If you're, I'm in the process of reviewing it, guys. I am hoping to have the review by Friday. So this is posted on Friday, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so then check out the Order review, check out the Monster Hunter review, and check out the new 3DS review. Yeah, and that's my spiel. Monster Hunter is amazing.
Also be sure to check out our streams. Usually I try to stream on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Next week I don't think I'll be able to do Thursday night, but I should still be able to do Monday and Tuesday night. So check out the streams, but always just follow us at the Gamer Access on Twitter. Whenever I go live, I usually tweet it and then retweet it from the Gamer Access Twitter, so you guys would know. Also, you can follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/the Gamer Access. That way you get notified whenever we are streaming. But if you want to plan ahead of time, like I said, usually I stream from Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. So, yeah. Like I said, I would promote tomorrow's stream, but by the time you guys listen to this, that stream would have already passed. So, hopefully that stream went well, and if any of you guys are listening, were in that stream, thank you.
Cool.
So, Anthony, you gonna go through the comments and questions?
Yeah, I'm loading it right now. There are no questions for this week.
Oh, no questions? Come on, guys.
I think we probably scared away half our viewer base by getting a little too intense with our PC talk last week, and I think we probably scared another 25% of our audience base today because we spent half an hour talking on PCs again.
Yeah, so guys, we're sorry, okay? We're sorry. So what's going to happen is we're going to cut this down starting next week, and then we're going to bring back the raid, and then we'll leave all PC talk the raid, because
seriously, it's like, Nick, you built your crazy computer. John is getting his pretty nice computer. I'm due for a upgrade, and oh man. Computers. So much computers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but we didn't have questions or comments this week.
Alright, guys. Well, please leave comments and questions if you made it through. Like I said, we'll cut down on this PC talk and save it for the PC podcast. But, oh man, I am yawning. It's been a long day. And I still have a lot of stuff I need to do tonight. But please leave comments and questions for next week. Please be sure to check out the Order review. Let us know what you think of it. John will be putting out his Monster Hunter review. I'll be streaming again. I think that about does it for 117, guys. Thank you guys for listening. Any last words?
Subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitch. Like us on
our
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, at facebook.com/the Gamer Access. So,
cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys.
Also, look for some coverage of future NIS stuff.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Look for that.
Because I am not going to be able to sleep tonight because I never sleep well the night before any trip. Even right now, I am wide awake and tired at the same time. It's a terrible feeling. Anyways, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening once again. We'll be back next week with another episode. Everyone have a good week. We're out.
Bye.
Have a good week, guys.